They know, hey, you're on camera, you're gonna get asked a question, and it's gonna go online. So growing up, I've always been pretty shy. But when I started creating content, it's helped out a little bit with that. I was always pretty quiet. I kind of had a lot of anxiety going up to people. And obviously, to most people, like that's just not an easy thing to do. To go up to a complete stranger and talk to them is never an easy task. But I eventually started creating content where I interview people, very man on the street style. It's been a very interesting process, and interviewing people on the street has definitely changed me as a person. I want to say in a good way. I would hope so. So at one point in my career making YouTube videos, I started asking people, what would you rate your car on a scale of 1 through 10? I think the reason this question has worked so well is because it's very short. You get an instant gratification. You get to find out how does this person feel about their car, and then you get to also find out how someone else feels about their car because you carry it on to the next person by asking, hey, what do you rate this car on a scale of 1 through 10? And then you ask, what do you rate your car? So it's a really cool process to see kind of how people feel about their car and how they feel about someone else's. So for me, what I try to do is I am just this kid that walks up to random people to ask them a question. And from their perspective, I could be asking them anything. I could be asking them for money. I could be wanting to just bother them, or I want to sell them on something. But in reality, I just want to get them in a 10-second TikTok. So a lot of things were going through my head when I was first doing these videos. I would over-explain to people. I would go up to them and say, hey, I would really love to have you in a video. This is what's going to happen. This is who I am. This is what we're going to do with the video. Just keep explaining it and going into detail, sort of the whole process. And I found out that that actually doesn't work too well. You don't want to over-explain too much on things like this, because then what happens is they'll actually start answering the question directly to you. And then when you try to go do it on video, it feels staged. It doesn't feel real. It's not a really organic answer because you've already had the discussion with them a minute before you've started filming. Now I need to go up to people and I can't say anything at all. I just need to start interviewing them. Just go right into it. That seemed to work, but I personally didn't like that too much because I wanted people to have some form of a warning. So that's like something I notice online. I see a lot is people just go up to them and just go right into a video. But I always wanted to make sure that the person I was interviewing felt comfortable with it. So I do a very quick explanation. Now I say, hey, is it all right if I put you in a quick video for YouTube? That's all I say. And I think that's tend to work pretty well because what happens is they kind of get all the information they need to know. They know, hey, you're on camera, you're gonna get asked a question, and it's gonna go online. So that's essentially all they need to know that I find to get the most organic answer out of people. But what's really interesting is when you say interview, it sounds like a full-on sit-down conversation, but my videos are on the street. Like you are in your car in a parking lot or at a red light or just driving through somewhere where I'm literally stopping you. And sometimes I'll get the cars from behind honking because we're in the middle of the road trying to do this video. So I have to make it quick. So I tell people, hey, look, this is gonna take 10 seconds. I'm gonna ask you 2 questions and it's gonna get over with. So a lot of people I think have gotten to the point where they can see the videos and they can kind of understand, like not only just from my videos, but they've seen other man on the street videos and they can kind of get an idea of like what the video will look like. So we're able to do them pretty quickly. One of the things that I love about these videos is while you're asking a very simple question, you're getting a pretty deep answer depending on how the person responds. So a big thing for me is I don't want to change the person's answer in any way. So I'm not gonna tell them, hey, you should talk about this, you should mention this, or hey, you have a really cool car, like you should talk about your car. I tend to just say, hey, we're just gonna do a video, and then I ask them the question, and then whatever they say is kind of what goes into the video. For the most part, every single interview that I do tends to get posted, and I think that's pretty cool. But the thing about man on the street interviews is, going back to what I originally stated, I used to be very, very shy. Like it is not easy to go up to random people and just start talking to them. But for some reason, when the camera's on, I get in this work mode or like this filming mode where I'm like, oh, like, I really want to get this clip. I think this would be really cool to film this because that person looks like they have a good story, or just if they're just in a cool car, I'd love to get it on video. And it's been a great way to meet people because it's a reoccurring format. So a lot of people see the format and they understand, wait, I think I've seen this before. What I've noticed is really interesting is I can show you a video that's probably never even been posted before. And you might say, hey, I think I've seen that before, because you've seen the format before. And from a business model, it's actually amazing because I'm able to take this one concept and make unlimited amounts of videos on it. So for YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, the shorts, reels, I tend to post videos in the range of 30 seconds to a minute. And with those videos, essentially the way it looks on a long-term scale is it's an unlimited length video. The video will never ever end because I ask one person a question and then I go to the next person and the next and the next and the next, and it never stops. But it gets cut up into little bits so I can have a 30-second clip that goes on Instagram, and then the next clip is going to be the next 30 seconds after that. So it's amazing because it's an unlimited process. And what was really, really intriguing to me is when I first posted this video, I talk about experimentation a lot. So I experiment with different things on my YouTube channel, see what works, see what doesn't. Well, I posted this one video and it blew up. I mean, in my opinion, for me, this was crazy. Overnight, it had like a few million views. By a few days in, it was at like 5 or 6 million views, the very first Rate Your Car episode. And I was like, wow, people actually are enjoying this. This is getting really good engagement. And I genuinely thought the videos were very cool as well. And then I posted another one and it did just as well. And then a third one and it did very well also. And I said, okay, there's something here. But I told myself, look, I don't want to get my hopes up. Maybe we'll get 5 episodes out of this before people kind of get the idea and they're like, all right, it's cool, but like whatever. 5 videos in, it's still doing very well. 10 videos in, I'm like, okay, when's it gonna end? Like, when is this gonna do horrible? Currently, I've posted 336 episodes of Rate Your Car, and people still do tend to like the videos, which I think is amazing, and I'm super appreciative of that, because you would think after 300 something episodes, wouldn't people just get tired of it? But that seems to not be the case, and I think from a brand perspective, it's recognizable. It's enjoyable to watch. There's not much thinking that goes on. It's more of an entertainment. You just get to see, hey, like, what does this person drive? Kind of how do they feel about the car? Because you get a lot of really different answers. I mean, someone can be in a Pagani and say they absolutely hate the car. And then the next person is going to say, that's my dream car. I will do anything to own that car. So you get to see a lot of perspectives, because I think it's a lot about window watching. For the audience, it's voyeuristic. They get to see the exchange between me, the owner, the next owner, and it's really cool to sort of see into people's perspective and how they feel about certain things. In this case, it's their car, but sometimes it's a lot more than the car. They'll start talking about their marriage, or they'll start talking about their parents, bring in things that you would never even think about are related to the car, but people mention it in the videos, and I think it's the coolest thing ever. I would say most people rate their car, no matter what car it is, if it's a Mazda Miata or a hypercar. I would say that most ratings tend to be between 6 and 8, probably 7, because what I've noticed is people see 7 as a safe zone where they can say their car's a 7. It's not a 10 where you're saying, oh, I'm perfect, my car's the best. But if it's not like a 4 where it's like, okay, it's actually a pretty nice car, like I don't think it deserves a 4. Now, the best responses I think are when someone's in like a Lamborghini and then they give themselves a 1, because a lot of people are like, well, why would you give that car a 1? It's the coolest thing ever. And then the owner will say something like, oh, it's just unreliable, it's been giving me headaches. But from an outside perspective, you're like, oh, you're thinking you're in a Lamborghini. So it actually goes a lot deeper than just making videos about cars, because you kind of get to see the perspective of how someone else's mind takes in information. Like having a cool car you might think is the coolest thing in the world, but in reality it might not. And you can kind of see that through the videos. So a lot of people see social media videos and they think it can be a very, very easy overnight success. While that could be true for some people, like maybe Hawk2, that might apply to that. But for me, it was definitely over a long process of trial and error and experimentation. So I've been making videos for almost 10 years now. And only about 2 years ago was really when things started to click and I started to see the numbers go up. So one of my best months right now has been when I've seen over 100 million views across all platforms. And to me, that's just crazy, because I can't even grasp how many people that is. Like to imagine in my head 100 million people standing in front of me is crazy. I mean, that's almost like what, a third or a fourth of the US population, which is just insane to get that many views in 1 month. But like I said, a lot of people see this as an overnight success. And while you could have that happen, I think a lot of it is experimentation. So for me, the first 8 years of making content, I wasn't really seeing too much growth. It was a lot of minor growth, and then once I started doing new series that worked, it was just an exponential growth, which is very cool. But it was a lot of experimentation, seeing what works, what doesn't. So I did car reviews, I did, installations on cars, and those videos, I was working very hard to do them. I mean, it was something I always wanted. Even when I was 13 years old making videos, I was still working just as hard to make those videos as I was now, but it was just a different mentality. I didn't necessarily know what works, and I still don't know what works. I still have so much to learn, and there's unlimited that you can learn. You're never gonna know everything, but you can definitely see things, kind of understand, hey, this is how this tends to work, this is how this kind of goes in that direction, and work off of that. But I definitely had a good experience of like learning how things work, and I'm glad that that's how that went, because if I had just had like an overnight success, let's say my very first video somehow went viral, I don't know if I would have wanted that, because I think that would have been harder to sustain over time, because making these videos, seeing kind of what works, what doesn't, also growing just as a person. I mean, I was 12 years old when I started, and I'm 22 years now. Like, I'm just a completely different person to when I first started making videos, and it's just been a great process. But there's definitely been times where like things have clicked and things have said, hey, like, I don't think this really works too well. Because also, one of my biggest things I've noticed is when I make videos, I love to show them to other people before they get posted. And what I'll do is I'll show it to someone else, like a friend, my mom, whoever, and just say, hey, no context, just watch this video. And I'll watch the person's facial expressions to see how they react to the video, because that tells me a lot. So if I show you a video and your facial expression is just very monotone, like there's not much going on, I could tell that you probably think it's a boring video. Sometimes if I show you a video and it's a minute long and 30 seconds in, I can tell you've kind of got that face saying, hey, I get it, like I don't need to watch anymore. That tells me this probably isn't a good video. Like it's okay to be harsh on myself and say, hey, like I just don't think this is a good video. But I start to think, what can I do to make the video better? So I started making videos where I noticed as I would show people the video, I'd get a facial expression. And that was the biggest thing. If I can bring some kind of emotion out of someone, that's the biggest thing. If I can show you a video and I just see something going on in your face, whether it's like a smile or a laugh, anything, that tells me, hey, you're connecting to the video in some way. So that was the biggest thing for me, that I was really study that. A lot of people will study analytics and numbers, but for me, the biggest thing I would study was just like, how does someone react to a video? Like, what does your face look like when you watch the video? And that was really the clicking point for me, where I said, wait, the videos I was making before wouldn't bring much facial expression out of someone. But then once I started doing the interviews, there was just so much going on in the interview. There's me asking you the question, there's the way you respond, there's the anticipation of like, hey, what's the next person gonna say? And it just brings a lot of facial expressions that I thought was really cool to just watch kind of how people watch the videos. And that really helped me shape the videos into making them just a little bit more enjoyable.
Right now, I want you to click the link in the description below to find your next car on Auto Tempest. Whatever it is you're looking for, Auto Tempest is the most powerful way to shop for your next car. They compile all the results from all the major listing sites into one place, and now they've got a new feature that I love. You can see all of the historical price changes that a car has had since it first showed up for sale online. That gives me more power to be an even shrewder negotiator, understanding exactly how desperate the seller probably is to get rid of this car. So check them out now at the link in the description below to thank them for their ongoing support of VINwiki and find your next car on Auto Tempest.